Hello everyone, very good morning and good evening. We are quickly starting. Today is our Ariba demo session. I will be giving you a quick overview on between sourcing and procurement with Ariba. What are the different solutions? What is SAP module, sourcing and procurement? What exactly Ariba is? That's what we would be talking about. And then I would be handing it over to Sree. She would be taking you in Ariba and he would also be trying to show you some Ariba screens and the curriculum of Ariba, which we are going to cover. Okay, as we all know that we came here for the Ariba overview, right? So before we jump into the Ariba, we want to first thing we want to just understand what is Ariba, okay? For what kind of solution it is. So in industries, in companies, we do in supply chain, we do one of the operations and which will be always there in the supply chain, that we want to buy something. We want to procure something, right? So whether it's a manufacturing company, whether it is a financial services company, there would be always one thing that we want to buy, something we want to buy in the company, right? And we would be buying it from this is our company, and we will be buying it from a vendor or from a supplier. So to do this buying operations in a company, we need to have a multiple different processes. First, we need to identify the vendor. Okay, before identifying the vendor, the first thing they need to have is company need to have a requirement. What we need to buy, how much we need to buy, when we need to buy. We need to know that, right? What we need to buy, how we need to buy, and when we need to buy. Then with whom we need to buy, we need to identify a vendor. We need to identify a source. So once we identify a vendor, once we identify a source, then we need to onboard that source into our company. We need to have an agreement with them. We need to have a contract with them. Then this vendor or supplier is going to supply to us, right? Then this vendor and supplier is going to supply to us. We need to set them a purchase order, and against the purchase order, we would be receiving it. But in this full process, there can be multiple different scenarios can be there. And to handle these multiple different scenarios, we also have a different tools. We also have a different products also, right? So that's where basically we would be having this operations, which is called the buying operations, which is called the supply operations, which is called the sourcing and procurement operations, will be there in our company. And to handle these business operations, to handle this business, to handle this business department, we would require a IT product. Okay, by which we would be able to identify our vendors, we should be able to onboard our vendor, and we should be able to do the business with our vendor. We should be able to buy from them. We should be able to receive it, and we should also be able to pay them for the material and the services which they have provided to us. To handle that, we have a different tools available in the market. Okay, so I will not, we'll talk about what are the different tools available in the market at some point of time. But within SAP also, when we talk about SAP provider solution, SAP also have a multiple tools available for it. Okay. SAP also have a multiple tools available for it. We have SAP S/4HANA, which is available. And we also have Ariba available. Now, Ariba or SAP S/4HANA, both are SAP products. Earlier, Ariba was a separate company, and somewhere around 2010, Ariba was acquired by SAP. Now Ariba is a SAP product. Now we have two products, right? From SAP itself, we have two products. We have Ariba. Okay, we have Ariba. We have SAP S/4HANA. S/4HANA has a multiple different products, But one of the product in S/4HANA is sourcing and procurement, which is also known as materials management, right? Now, the point is that if a company is implementing SAP, okay, and they want a solution for their sourcing and procurement department, which one they need to adopt? Whether they need to adopt Ariba, which they should go for Ariba, company should go for Ariba, or company should go for SAP S/4HANA. Which one the company should go for? Quickly, answers on the chat. What would you say? Which one company need to prefer, Ariba or SAP S/4HANA? I have not explained you both of them, but still, I want your answers on the chat quickly. S/4HANA or Ariba? Rajesh said, "Bhaiya, indirect Ariba, direct SAP S/4HANA." Vasant Rao said that S/4HANA. Summer said S/4HANA. Now, in this session, it is mandatory for you when we are asking a question, it is mandatory for you to answer it. If you don't know, you can put NI, no idea. Sir, मुझे तो पता नहीं, आप बताओ. मैं तो ज्ञान लेने आया हूँ इधर, right? So you can also put NI. The idea is to ask you question is so that the interaction is there and your focus remain on the session. S/4HANA on-premise and Ariba for cloud. Summer said we need to go for both. No idea. NI1, NI said. Quickly, more answers. I just received 1, 2, 3, 4 answers. How about other? Wake up, guys. The people who are sleeping, please wake up. S/4HANA. No idea. Okay. Let me explain. So we'll see that which one need to be adopted. But what are the different solutions are available from SAP S/4HANA? Let's look at the solution. Then we will be discussing that which need to be adopted for what thing. Okay, before we go ahead, let me give you one idea between sourcing and procurement, and then we'll go to that picture and see what is available from SAP. And what does SAP propose? We have always the two streams. We call it as a sourcing and procurement. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between sourcing and what is the difference between procurement? Quickly over the chat. If anyone is speaking, I'm not able to hear. Let me correct my settings. Okay, yeah. I got one answer. George said that sourcing is transactional and sourcing is strategic. Summer said that when we don't know the supplier and when we need to approach to the market, it is a sourcing. Sourcing means searching, procurement, negotiation to find appropriate vendor for our requirement. Okay, that is the thing. Ganesh, do you want to add something? Your mic is unmuted. To find appropriate vendor to determine source of supply. Okay, very good answers. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos. Whatever you mentioned is correct. Is it's 100% correct, but I would be adding a little bit more points to it. Now, what happened when we talk about sourcing and when we talk about the procurement, the major difference between the both would be the procurement we talk about the regular operations. Okay, you think about a company who produce the juice bottles. So they need to procure the juice concentrate. They need to produce bottles. They need to produce caps. They need to procure labels. So juice concentrate, bottles, caps, labels, these are things they need to procure it. They need to buy it, right? So when they need to buy all of these things, whether they would be searching for the vendor and these things would be coming to their premise maybe on the daily basis or the weekly basis, these things would be coming into their premise. They are producing daily. Okay, they are selling it daily basis. They are storing, sending to their distribution channel and the distribution centers and the warehouses on the daily basis. So they also would be continuously buying it. So if they want to buy a juice concentrate, if they want to buy a bottle, if they want to buy a cap, if they want to buy a label, in the normal operations, when the buying will happen, they will, if the requirement comes, they will not go and find out who would be my vendors who will give me the juice concentrate, who would be my vendor who would be giving my bottles, who would be my vendor who would be giving my caps, labels. In the normal operations, they already would be having one vendors would be there, which is already shortlisted or onboarded vendor or supplier would be there. He would be getting a purchase order. We would be giving a purchase order to him. And based on this purchase order or before purchase order, there can be a purchase requisition from our side. And this purchase order, the vendor will get. And with respect to this purchase order, we will be doing a goods receipt. And then we would be having an invoice coming from vendor. And we would be doing the payment to the vendor, right? We would be doing the payment to the vendor. This cycle is called P2P. So this is a procurement cycle, which we call it as a P2P cycle, procure to pay. In this case, we need to, in daily basis, in daily operations, we need not to identify the vendors. We would be having already selected vendor. We would be having already onboarded vendor. We would be having already contract. We would be only having a negotiated price info records, or in the contract, it would be mentioned at what price we would be buying it. All the things would be already in place. What we need to do is the operations. We need to make sure we buy the material. Okay, we give the purchase orders. We get the approval of the purchase orders. We give it to the vendor and vendor supplies back. He raises the invoice and we give the payment. That is a normal operation that comes into the procurement cycle. This is the one which is coming into the procurement cycle. But what will happen in case you have a vendor who is giving you the juice concentrate? Okay. Now this vendor who is giving you juice concentrate, you find it out the quality of the product is not coming good, or quality of the product is getting deteriorating. Okay. Or he is charging you very high. Okay. Or you find that this vendor is sitting into some location or region which is under the political unrest. There are some situations that there would be some problem with this vendor. So you want to make sure, because this is a key material, you want to make sure you have a 2-3 different vendors should be available. This vendor is there, but because this is your very key product, because of the issue with the prices, because of the issue with the quality, because of the issue, your strategic procurement, that you don't want to depend on one vendor, you want to onboard couple of more vendors. You want to go into the market and you want to select more vendors. Okay, you want to select more vendors. So when you would be going into selecting more vendors, So there, basically, your sourcing department will come into the picture. Okay. This department sometimes is also called your vendor development department will come into the picture. Then they need to do a lot of exercise. They need to first identify that what we need to buy. And if we want to buy this, what are the different vendors available in the market? Okay, so they need to shortlist the vendors. They need to have a meetings with the vendors. They need to have a workshop with the vendors. They need to send quotations to the vendors. Request for quotation they need to send. RFQs they need to send it. In return of that, they would be getting a different quotations. They would be comparing the quotation. There would be a bidding process which can be started between the vendors. And based on the bidding process, then you would be identifying that who is the right vendor. Then you need to onboard the vendor. While onboarding also, there is the questionnaires which we need to get it filled from the vendor, whether the vendor is the correct vendor, whether the financial situations are correct, whether all the ISO certifications are there, whether the cyber awareness is there, whether the vendor data is protected, whether he is protected against the ransomware. All so many things we need to check with the vendor before we onboard. The big companies, the vendor onboarding does not happen that smooth. Some companies, the small company itself, which is not very big, the vendor onboarding process can take almost a month. And few places, it takes almost 3 to 4 months. I know many of the vendors into the IT side, they want to provide IT services to different companies. They are trying to register their vendor, but they are not able to get it done because the vendor selection and vendor onboarding is a very scrutinizing process. It's a very controlled process. And why it is very controlled process? इतना control क्यों है? Why company has so much of control to onboard a vendor? Okay, why there would be a lot of checks, a lot of measures? Why? Quickly answers on the chat. Why for the big companies it is a very long lead time to onboard a vendor? Quickly, NI on the chat window, if you don't know that why companies take so long to onboard a vendor. Due to diligence to avoid future risk. Very good, Biru. Ravi said NI. How about the others? People who are sleeping, watching a movie. At least put NI if you don't know the answer. Risk reliability. Okay, to check the risk, to check the reliability. Because we need to produce a service at the right time, right place, right quality. Very good, Zuresh. Rajesh, risk assessments and the integrations, investment is huge and the risk aversion, Dilip is saying. Now, the biggest risk we are having, which we want to cover, and it is always there. That's why basically these kind of tools and products are required. SAP, companies invest big on SAP Ariba, because whenever it comes to this department of sourcing and procurement or the supply department, the money is going out from our pocket. Onboarding a customer also takes some time, but it takes less time. But onboarding a vendor will take more time, because customer onboarding, it will bring money in. Vendor onboarding, the money will go out from our pocket. So when money goes out from our pocket, the chances of the risk of fraud, risk of getting a vendor introduced by taking some favors would be always huge, would be always high. Okay. If somebody wants to do a fraud with the company, this is the department. Sourcing and procurement, especially sourcing is the department where you can get the influence by giving some under the table commissions. You can agree with the higher rates, or vendor can agree with the higher rates. Those kind of things can happen. Or supply department, by taking some favor, they can onboard a wrong vendor, which is not the right vendor. They are the other vendors which are more compatible, which provide better services, better quality, and better price. But those are not onboarded, but the other vendor has been onboarded. So the chances of fraud is more there in this department. That's why the control is required more. That's why everything need to be checked. All the scrutiny need to happen at the different places and different levels. That's why it takes time. Okay. And when you onboard a vendor, it also come as a part of your supply chain. It is kind of a business partner for you. If he's not able to provide the right quality, right material to you, your supplies to customer can be stopped, or your quality of your product to the customers can be at risk. Okay. That's why the larger scrutiny is there. That's why it takes time. So the team who is working on this part to select a vendor, to negotiate with the vendor, to identify, to create a contract with the vendor, okay, to do all the checks with the vendor, all the audits with the vendor, finally to onboard the vendor and hand over him the contract, negotiated contract, and saying, now this is my strategic buyer. And then after making it as a strategic buyer and identifying what should be the share we need to give it to them, then it goes with the procurement department. And when they create from purchase requisition, when they create a purchase order, they need to select the vendor, that which vendor they need to go ahead with buy. So the market share, which has been suggested by the sourcing team, based on that, every month some business need to be given to these vendors. Okay, so the basic idea is you would be able to understand that which products need to be used at which place, if you understand that there are the two different departments are there. Sourcing is different, procurement is different. Procurement talks about more, and we also in Ariba also we have both. In S4HANA also we have both. Ariba has both, S4HANA has both. Ariba we call it in the terminology upstream, downstream, and S4HANA we call it with the terminology sourcing and procurement. But both are same, whether you divide between upstream, downstream, or whether you divide between sourcing and procurement. Okay. Now, people was talking about a direct material buying and the indirect material buying. Now, these things becomes more important when the materials are indirect. So this is example of a direct material, which is directly going into my product. But then we have an indirect material. Can you tell me one, I want to check your business knowledge and business awareness. If I am creating in a month, okay, if I am buying in a month, if I am buying 100 of material, it can be material, it can be service. Okay, 100 of materials or services if I'm buying in a month, what is the ratio between indirect and direct? Direct materials is which is going directly in my product. I am producing juice bottles, so either it would be a direct part of the material, either it would be carton, packaging, it would be a bottle, labels, or what is there inside the bottle, it will be involved in this. That is my direct material. Indirect material is which is not direct material. It can be your printers, A4 papers, office supplies, IT equipments, AC, table, chairs, those are all the indirect materials. So if I'm buying 100 materials in a month, what would be the ratio? What would be the ratio? How many materials or products or services would be the direct, or how many would be indirect? Quickly. Jure said that 30 direct, 70 indirect. Ravi said that 80% direct and 20% indirect. Others put NI. If you don't know the answer, feel free to enter. 60 direct, 40 indirect. Okay. Everyone can tell with their experience, but what I want to tell you that with my experience, it would be 90% up to 90% indirect. We are talking about the count. We are not talking about in terms of the dollar value, in terms of the INR value. If I bought 100 materials, 90 material would be indirect and 10 materials would be direct. If you have in your material master, if you have 1,000 material, okay, only 200 materials would be the direct material. 800 materials would be the indirect material. So the volume of indirect would be more. Although the budget we are spending in the indirect might be less, but the volume would be high. They take a lot of efforts because the direct materials, the things has been set it up, right? And then you want to You have set it up a contract which can go for 1 year, which can go for 5 years. The vendors has been set it up. You would be keep on buying from them, right? And it is the limited material. But when it goes to indirect, the materials goes unlimited. The number of materials which you would be creating on the monthly basis in your system, indirect would be easily 10 times more material than the direct. Because when it goes to indirect, there are so many materials. It also depends how you create the materials in your system, or whether you create or without creating a material you buy. But the number of items you will be buying, there is a pen you are buying, there's a paper you are buying the office cups, you are buying the stationaries, you are buying the printers, you are buying the printer cartridges, you are buying so many IT equipments, different kind of IT cables, you are buying ACs, you are buying the computers, you are buying laptops, you are buying, and all of them has a different variants, right? You are buying mobile phones for your staffs. You are buying so many different things. You have manufacturing departments. You are buying machines. You are buying tools. You are buying jigs. You are buying fixtures, right? You are buying the safety equipments. You are buying gloves. You are buying shoes, safety jackets, helmets. You are buying it. You're buying different kind of services, IT services, you're buying it. You're buying it, the services, cleaning services you're buying to get the plant or the unit cleaned. You're buying different kind of cleaning chemicals, cleaning items, you're buying it. So indirect has a wide range. Within the office supplies, if you will be counting the items you're buying within the office supply to run to run the office, the office supply materials would be even more than your direct material. So the volume is huge. The dollar value can be more for the direct materials. If you compare the dollar value, it can be opposite. 80% of our procurement budget we spend on the direct materials, 20% on the indirect materials. But when we have a different sort of materials, and every time the IT will say that now we need this kind of camera. We want to install the camera, now we need this kind of camera. So to install these cameras, we also need this different kind of cable, right? And then they come up that we need different kind of laptops. Now we need these new laptops. They can come up that, okay, now for our AC units, we cannot manage in-house. We need a contract with some company outside to do the services of our ACs, right? We want to construct a new part in our plant and the warehouse. So to construct new part, we need to onboard a new vendor who would be doing construction, and then another vendor would be doing our interiors for the kind of a new office building which we are preparing. And then you have so many materials need to be bought for the interiors of the office, right? So you have so many materials comes up for which you would not be knowing who can be the right vendor for me. And when it comes for the indirect, your juice concentrate outside in the market, you will find 8 or 10 vendors who is supplying. But for indirect vendor, when you're going into the market, there would be 100 of the suppliers who will be supplying. So number of people supplying are more. So number of choices are also more, and number of materials count is also more. So sourcing team need to put a lot of efforts when it is the indirect buying. When it is the indirect buying, the sourcing team need to put a lot of efforts, right? Because the new materials are there, vendors is not defined, the price is not negotiated. Okay, so they need to go quick, and the efforts are also huge. We need to also reduce those efforts also, which goes in indirect buying. The value is less, but effort is more. So we need some products. We need some tools which can help to reduce those efforts, okay, and which can do the things more accurately, which is more relevant to the sourcing. However, in procurement, we want the things which should be more accurate and more right in process, which can help us in the daily operations. Because once you have onboarded a vendor or supplier, that vendor and supplier would be supplying you for 10 years, for 20 years continuously. You need to, every year, you need to make sure the quality is maintained and the price can be negotiated, because every 2-3 years, they will say that product price need to be increased because of inflations. Okay, but the effort of the sourcing, whatever the things we have talked, would be very high in the indirect side. That's why some people said, Ki, Bhaiya, for indirect, we'll be using Ariba. For direct, will be using SAP S/4HANA. That's the right statement. That's so many companies are doing it. So to do this procurement, you need to have integration with the different modules. For the direct materials, it need to be integrated with your sales module, sales and distribution module, because you need to sell the product. It need to integrate with your warehouse management to store the product. It need to integrate with your planning, because some planning engine need to run and identify that what, as per the sales team, how much of the finished good they want to sell. Based on that, what raw materials would be required, a planning need to be there. It need to be connected with the planning. So procurement cycles, the direct material cycles, has a lot of more integration with the logistics, taking it from planning, buying it, storing it, delivering it, producing it, then selling it, or buying it and then directly selling it. It has a lot of linkage with the different supply chain modules, logistics, planning, sales, warehousing. All of these integrations will come. Okay. However, for the sourcing, it is more efforts towards identifying the vendors, negotiating with the vendors, buying from a vendor. And many times when we are buying one item, maybe this items in that year, another purchase will not happen, or will be purchasing after 6 months or after 9 months. A machine equipment, you want to buy it, right? Not every day you will be buying. Juice concentrates bottles every day would be coming in your premise. But these indirect items, the frequency would not be that high. So the efforts are more in the sourcing, and direct materials, the efforts are more into the procurement. Now, SAP also, when it talks about SAP S/4HANA, it says sourcing and procurement. Both modules are there. But S/4HANA is very strong product on the procurement side, where it has a strong P2P cycles with integration with the planning and integration with the logistics, different logistics module, that is very strong. Although it has a sourcing also, but sourcing is just a flavor. It does not give you the advanced function and features of sourcing, which you require to reduce your efforts to take care of the bulk volume of indirect buying. That S/4HANA does not give you. It has both sourcing and procurement, but sourcing is just a flavor, and procurement is the part which is very strongly available. When it's talk about Ariba, when SAP is talk about Ariba, Ariba give you the better sourcing functions. Okay, Ariba give you the better sourcing functions. That's why for the there are many companies who has both, who has SAP S/4HANA also, and they have Ariba also. Ariba is, they are using it for the indirect buying, and the SAP S/4HANA, they are using it for the direct buying. And in some companies, for the direct buying also, whenever they need to find a new vendor for a direct material also, they are using a Ariba tool to find the vendor, to negotiate the vendor. Once the vendor has been found and negotiated, then it is sent to S/4HANA. So it is sent to S/4HANA so that the regular operations can be done. So again, to enhance your sourcing functionality and capabilities, Ariba is a product. To make sure that you would be having all advanced function and features of the sourcing, Ariba is a product. To make sure that you would be able to adapt to your indirect buying properly and smoothly, Ariba is a product. To do the buying to the from the to do the buying from the for the direct materials, to link with the supply chain operations, we are basically sales, finance, I missed it. Sales, finance, warehousing, planning, everything need to be integrated. That is the S/4HANA is a product for it. Okay. So you can use a combination of both Ariba and SAP S/4HANA sourcing and procurement. That's what SAP also said. If you ask this question to SAP answer is, my dear friend, my dear business, if you want end-to-end, if you want end-to-end, if you want your end-to-end sourcing and procurement need to be digitalized, then you need to have both. You need to have Ariba also. You need to have S/4HANA also. SAP suggests have both. If you want to full digitalization of your procurement department, your sourcing and procurement department, you need to go with combination of Ariba plus SAP S/4HANA sourcing and procurement. That will give you the full digitalization. full advanced function and features, full integrations of a company within the buying operations. Now, I would be jumping into this slide which we are talking about. So what SAP offers. So SAP even have more products. Earlier, SAP was having SAP SRM, which is going to sunset, SAP MM, which is going to sunset. Okay. SRM is basically all the function and feature of SRM would be provided through Ariba, and most of the function and feature of MM is provided through S4HANA. So SAP Ariba plus S4HANA combination is a solution for the companies. Ariba providing a more function and features, and S4HANA, Ariba is more in the sourcing, and S4HANA is more into the procurement side of it. Now we would be moving ahead, and I would be giving you, I have tried to clear the picture, which I want to do it. You understand both difference between sourcing and difference between procurement, and where basically Ariba need to comes into picture, and where basically S4HANA need to comes into picture. You would be able to understand it better. Now I would be handing it over to Sree, because this is a demo for Ariba. We want to jump more into the Ariba side. I am handing it over to Sree, who would be giving you the overview of Ariba, that how the things happens in Ariba. He will showcase you some of the screens of Ariba, and he will also showcase what curriculum we are going to cover for Ariba. And my support team, you can keep asking your question on the chat if you have any generic question, how to enroll for it. Okay, the link has been given, or what would be the schedule, what would be the timing, you can ask in the chat, and Aman would be answering those. Somebody had unmuted. Ravi, can you go on mute, please? If you're not speaking, please stay on mute. Otherwise, a lot of background voices comes up. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos. Okay, so with that, I would be welcoming Sree. Sree is a very experienced, and he's at least running Ariba classes within the SastraGeek solution for almost 4 years. He has done tons of batches, the corporate batches, and these batches, the individual batches with us. And he has even more than 10 years of experience in his area. He has a very good business operations experience, and he has very in-depth Ariba experience. He is a consultant which is consulting the different Ariba projects, and he's sparing out some time to provide training with us. So he's having a very real-time experience handling and implementing Ariba. So during the sessions, you can feel free to understand, ask the questions to him related to the Ariba and his experience when Ariba has been implemented, what challenges or what issues comes and how to address those challenges or issues. He is the guy who would be able to talk about it. With that, handing it over to Sree. Sree, over to you. I'm unsharing my screen. You can feel free to share your screen and get it started. Sorry, I take a little bit more time. I have some of the time from Sree. Sorry for that. But Sree, now the house is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Parminder. As usual, this would be a very insightful session on the procurement. So you used to give a very clear picture or broad set of what is procurement and what are the options a client has to choose. This will be really helpful for whoever new to the procurement or new to the SAP Ariba landscape. Thank you. So let's take over from here. Hello, good morning and good evening, everyone. So I will just share my screen and we'll just look at Ariba, what we are going to cover. Okay. Meanwhile, let me know if I'm audible and clear. Can someone comment or you can just put in the chat message? Yeah, thank you. Someone has already confirmed. So I'll quickly take you to the screen where we are going to discuss mostly on the SAP directly into the Ariba. As Parminder has already given a very brief about S4HANA and Ariba's functionality. So let's go into the Ariba modules in little bit detail. So in our training, you might have already seen the training material or it will be shared by the support team. So we are going to cover all these modules which I'm showing here. this will be having upstream and downstream modules. Ariba has been broadly classified into two modules. One is for strategic sourcing and second is operational procurement. So why the difference? So as we discussed in sourcing of a supply, we take a time to evaluate the supplier and give the business to him. Once we set up all the systems ready, and it is very easy for the procurement team to process the purchase orders against what has been selected. That we are going to discuss in more detail in coming session. So just to give you on landscape basis, Ariba is having upstream divided into three modules: sourcing, contract management, supplier management, which is also a replacement of SAP's SRM replacement. So supplier management, we are going to talk about how you manage the supplier, how you onboard the supplier, how you perform supplier performance, all these things covered in the supplier management. Sourcing, we are going to cover what is an RFI, request for information, request for proposal. So how you get a quotation from the supplier and how you choose best quotation among the available quotations. And you also conduct auction so that you get a better pricing. So among your chosen supplier, you can even conduct a live event. So thereby you get more benefits from the auction event that we are also going to see. So in depth, we are going to cover sourcing, contract, SLP. As an end user, you are going to perform a normal transaction. And as a consultant, Ariba Upstream is driven by template-based environment. So we're going to show you what is a template, how we have to maintain or build the template, how to troubleshoot those templates. Once we activated it, you can again create your own event using the template. So to that level, we are providing a training. So that will cover sourcing, contract, and supplier management. Coming to the downstream, it's also called operational procurement. So the process is how you create a purchase requisition, how this will get converted into purchase order, and how it will move on from invoicing. That is a procurement cycle. So if anyone from your procurement team, you will be knowing. So it all starts with a requisition, and then it will convert into a purchase order that will be sent to the supplier. Supplier will accept the purchase order, saying a confirmation that I have received your purchase order. It's again an acknowledgement. Once you receive the material from the supplier, you will perform a goods receipt in the system or a service acceptance in the system. Or if it is a auto selection by Ariba, that means you don't need to perform. On the day of invoice, you accept the payment. Sorry, you accept the material or a service and invoice is processed for payment. So those transactions we are going to see under buying and invoicing module. Ariba is also giving you individual modules also. You don't need to take all these 5 modules as per customer needs or the client needs. They can subscribe only for contract module or only SRM, sorry, supplier management, or they can go with only buying and invoicing. Or together, all these 5 modules can be taken as a suite integration. With this, they have a benefits of taking all modules in one shot. Okay, coming to Ariba environment, it is a cloud-based environment. You are provided with one URL. With that URL, you just need to log in with username and password. If your company is having single sign-on enabled or authenticated, then with that credentials, you are able to log in into the Ariba application. You don't need to remember your username and password. Then coming to very short details, classic buying and guided buying. In this buying screen, we are also having two type of environment. A normal user who do not use Ariba very frequently, once in a rare, for example, HR department or marketing department, where they are not going to regularly use. Whereas the procurement team, like buyers, senior managers, procurement managers, who every day deals with the procurement activities, they see the Ariba buying as a standard screen. For those casual buyers, we have a guided buying screen where the limited options will be available and it is easy to navigate. So you can create your requisition and see anything under approval and all. So that difference is called classic buying and guided buying. In sourcing also now Ariba has introduced what is called guided sourcing. So this is again, the interface is changing. You will be having a friendly user face or easy to use user face. So that will be more focused. So that is the difference between classic buying and guided buying. Coming to the administrated areas, for upstream, we are going to perform the activities under administration. For downstream, we are going to enable certain configurations under core administration. So Ariba is provided with only 2 environment. If anyone from S4HANA or anything, so you will be normally seeing a development system, quality system, and then moving under the production system. You will be having 3 systems. So you have to move whatever the changes you have to perform in a development system. Then via transport, you have to move from one system to another system. But that is not the case in Ariba. You can directly do in test system, validate all the changes or all the parameter enabling or doing all the testing. Once you're okay and you perform all the scenarios, regression testing and complete it, then you have to replicate the same in production environment. So that we are going to see both two systems, test system and production system. Sorry, we are going to practice on a test system, and it is a real-time system. It is not something sandbox where practically you will be having a different scheme. Whatever you see here, that is what you are going to see when you go to the client places also, or when you are put into Ariba job also. So that's test and production, two environment. Very occasionally, like 1 in 10 or 5% in 100 customer, you might come across three environment, test, production, and one more additional environment, which we can call as a test two, or we can call as a development system or quality system as per the client convenience. So basically both are same only, both two test system they will be having on one production system. As we know, Ariba is maintained by SAP. So anything you want to do level, code level changes or something technical configuration, that has to be done by Ariba Shared Services team, that we are going to discuss how we have to connect with them and what are all they can able to do it. So let me now, the next topic would be, I'm taking you to the Ariba screen just to give you the feel how Ariba will look. And then I will open for a Q&A. Okay, this is your Ariba homepage or landing page where you can able to configure the dashboard according your convenience. So when you enter username and password, you will be taking into this page. So the tabs which you are seeing here, home, catalog, contracts, procurement, invoicing, these permissions, so each individual module is having a different tab. For example, when I go to the procurement, I should see procurement related content. When I go to the invoicing, I should see invoicing related content. So these tabs will appear as long as you are having a permissions to this module. For example, a procurement buyer may not be having an invoicing permission. Similarly, invoicing agent may not be having a procurement permission. So then they don't see these different tabs. Since we are an administrator or we are practicing purpose, we have access to all these modules. That's why we are able to navigate between all the different modules of procurement solution. As I mentioned, Ariba is divided into two, upstream and downstream. In order to go to the upstream, or this is also called parent and child environment. When your client is having multi-environment, for example, one parent system and multiple child system. So that we are going to discuss in the detail. So why we need a multiple system? Because your client is located in US, for example, and he is having operations in multiple areas. So Europe or APAC or China or Middle East or something like that. If they are using different ERP system, it is still possible to connect to one system all these different ERP systems. So in that scenario, we will generally having parent and child relationship established. Now currently I am in a child system. That is basically procurement system. Let me move to the sourcing system by clicking on this button. When I click site, then it will take me to the parent system. Okay, this is your parent system. If I want to switch back to the downstream, then I need to click again. So in parent system, you generally see contracts, sourcing, and suppliers. So all these three modules are related to upstream solution. When I want to see downstream, I can see I have to go to child system, then I can able to see them. When I click create, I should be seeing contract workspace procurement. This is related to upstream or sourcing project or sourcing request. These are all related to your upstream or parent side. When I go to the child side, by just clicking on the site button.
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
Okay, now when I click on create, I should be seeing different options. What is that? Requisition, creating an invoice. These are all your downstream activities. Since user is having both the permission, he is seeing all these options. Or generally, when the downstream person, he can only see creation of a requisition or an invoice. And these are all menu buttons. So here you will be having creation of a document inside Ariba. Mayonnaise will give you administrator activities. Like as I mentioned, mayonnaise administration refers to parent, core administration related to procurement. and even SM administration, which is nothing but supplier management administration, you're going to perform under here. Managing purchase orders, managing goods receipt, that everything can be done under manage. The recent menu will show you whatever the documents which you have just created in the system. Just want to show you the feel how Ariba looks like. That's why we're demonstrating this one. Now I want to run one simple transaction. How we are going to create a requisition in Ariba. So I'll go to create and click on requisition. Or on the left hand side, common action, I have a create and then requisition. If I want, this is frequently used, so I can able to directly click this button. Or I can click on this more, then I will get an option. Whatever the options I am having, I can get it. In this scenario, I'm going to create a requisition. Okay. So you can also browse through the catalog item. So catalogs are available based on for particular supplier, what item you want to purchase, you can able to purchase. Suppose if I do not find any of the item in the catalog, then I will simply create a non-catalog item. Since it is for mostly for indirect purchases, sometime we'll be creating non-catalog item. And when you are having a catalog established with the supplier, you can able to browse through the catalogs and the buyer can purchase whatever the item he is looking for. So I'll click on add non-catalog item. So I'm going to say Lenovo laptop or Lenovo desktop. This is my item and this belongs to what kind of a commodity. I'm going to search for desktop commodity. This is nothing but your material group. So desktop computers, I'm selecting it. And automatically the system is doing what is the material group associated in my ERP system. And this is going to be charged against a cost center. Okay. And this is a material you can do for material and service. So material, one quantity, I'll be purchasing for example, $450 is my Lenovo laptop cost. Then I'll be selecting the supplier, Alpha Computer, for example. Then I will say Lenovo desktop, LE desktop. This is a supplier part number. Wherever the asterisk is there, that is only the compulsory information. Rest of the things are optional information. I'll simply click on add to cart, then proceed to checkout. Here I'm going to give the title or whatever my purchase requisition description. So this laptop I'm being purchasing for a HR department. HR department manager. Laptop purchase. I can define whatever the title for my purchase requisition I can enter. And when I want this item by 15th May. Then when I click on action, edit detail, I can also see additional information. Majority of the fields are automatically selected. Just to verify if it is going to be under this cost center and this GL account, it has to be charged. And this is where the item is going to be delivered. If everything looks fine for me, I can add comments or I can add attachments also. Click OK. Even when I'm adding an attachment, I can also choose whether this attachment has to be sent to the supplier or it's only for internal purposes. So there would be one tick mark. Once you select the tick mark, that attachment can be sent to the supplier. If not, that is only for internal difference. Now I'll quickly submit. That's it. My purchase requisition is submitted. When I view the requisition, you see here, it is under approval. Automatically, Ariba is triggering an approval based off an existing configuration. It has to be approved by ORAN 12, purchasing agent, and then purchasing manager. In real-time scenario, these three people need to approve the purchase requisition. Let us assume they have approved by removing them. Since I am a customer administrator, I get the ability to override the approval configuration. So I'm removing the approvers. Then Ariba now it will take care of. As soon as purchase requisition is submitted and it is approved, Ariba will start creating purchase order. You can see here, now it is started ordering. Then when I go to the orders tab, I can also see order has been created against a contract. There is a contract existing with this particular supplier, and then automatically it has used a contract C503 and it has released one more purchase order currently in ordering status. So once it is ordered, if this copy will be sent to the supplier, you don't need to perform anything. So that is the advantage of Ariba compared to any other system, because once to establish sourcing activities with the well-known suppliers and having a contract with them, then the procurement people simply navigate in your application and they will perform the purchase order activity. You don't need to call the supplier and send the supplier and all. It is not required. Automatically, the PO will be created and sent to the supplier. Suppose you are integrated with an ECC or S4 HANA system, then this copy also will be created in your backend system, and you can also perform goods receipt in your ERP system also. Suppose you are using Ariba only for buying activity, then you get that option. Now let us assume that this purchase order been created and sent to the supplier. So this way, it's very easy. Now I'm going back to the home screen. Just want to know what is the status of my requisition. Once I have submitted, I want to see my status. So I can click on requisition, which is already there. I just click on this magnifier or search button. Then here I have some filters. I'm going to select preparer RN12, which is the user which has logged in. I'll click on search. Now you can see these are all the PRs here created. Some PRs in composing status, that means it is not submitted, and some are ordered status, that means PO has been ordered, and some PRs are in receiving status. So in one view, I know where is my status of a purchase requisition. I know whether the purchase order has been placed, or I have already placed and I have started receiving the item, or maybe I have already received a goods also. For example, in this scenario, goods also received for this particular PR. I'll click on this PR. Then I should able to see entire history of the details. So when this is approved, okay. And when I go to the history, system will give me, so on 28th April, the PR has been submitted and it has been created a PO. It could not be to the sent to the supplier. That's fine, because we need to have a relationship with the supplier existing. Since it is a demo system, the relationship is failed. That's the reason it is not there. But however, I can see the PO has been created and this is sent to the supplier, and amount I have received also. And out of received item, some quantity has been rejected. All the history I can able to see. When I go to orders tab, I can see how many purchase orders created against this particular requisition. There are 2 purchase requisitions have been created. When I click this order number, I can still see whether there is a goods receipt is performed or invoices are performed, and what is the history of this particular order. The purchase order has been done and they have performed a goods receipt, even order also completed. So this way you have in one place all the purchase related information. When we talk about sourcing, when we need to go to the parent side, we are going to create a sourcing request or sourcing project, and then we are going to invite to the supplier and get the responses. So that we will be seeing in a, we're going to cover that in a sourcing module discussion. So just to give you the glimpse, and these are all called tiles or dashboard content. So you can have whatever your to-do task, whatever my document. I mean, the documents you have created in the system will appear in my document. And you can search either by going here, click on whatever the related search. For example, I want to see requisition we have seen. I want to know the purchase orders. I'll click on purchase orders. Then purchase orders are available. By blindly clicking on search, it will give with the existing setting. So for example, from 26th April to 10th May, 67 purchase orders have been created. I could be able to see. Further, if I want to filter this one, I go by date order created. This week, how many orders have been created? And the system also will prompt me from 5th May to 11th May. Or I can choose custom by going to the bottom. I can select custom and I can give the range from which day to which day I want to see. When I click search, so out of 67, 16 purchase orders have been created during this week period. So this way you can able to browse through the Ariba. So I will take a pause now. So I will open for a Q&A if anything you are having. Yeah.
about the modularity nature of the solution, right? So in case I want to go for a specific module, so am I supposed to pay only for that module, or
That's correct. Yes, you are only paying for that particular module only. So when you take a suite subscription, the charges are high. You will be eligible for all the modules. You can pay as per usage
sorry, it's
also. If you
breaking
are using only
only
for
for the module?
sourcing, yeah, based on module only.
Okay, so you also showed in the cataloged items and non-cataloged items and how to create purchase requests, right?
Correct.
So in non-catalog, can we also have services type,
Yes, yes.
other than the
You
materials? Can
can
we have
create
some?
as a services. So services
Okay,
will have a different process. When it is a material, you are going to perform a goods receipt. So when it is a service, you have to enter service entry sheet. You have to accept service that will have additional information from which date to which date, start date and end date. That has to be provided when you're creating a purchase requisition itself. Once the purchase order is released for a service item, then the service has to be accepted. Via service entry sheet, you need to accept it, and then that is invoice is ready for payment. So Ariba, just to add one more, so Ariba, during your invoicing, you can also configure whether you want to perform two-way match or three-way match. So what is two-way match? That invoice is validated against existing purchase order. Or if you're having a three-way match, your invoice is validated against purchase order plus goods receipt or service entry sheet. Either both has, I mean, either goods receipt has to available or a service has to be accepted in order to release the invoice.
I got it. Thank you. And the last thing, I see whatever classes is being scheduled. So it is in the morning schedule, right? I mean, 7 a.m. IST time. So is there something that will be in the evening time, or so is there any plan?
That you can work with support, because when we are having more people, there is a chance. If it is
Sure,
limited people, then we have to work around.
sure, Sri. Thank you.
Hello, hi.
Yeah, hi.
So I just want to ask you that there is any backend configuration in Ariba, like in SAP, MM,
No, no.
S4HANA. There is okay.
Good question. So,
on-
like SAP MM Material Management or S/4HANA, the consultant has to build all the like organization structure, document types, etc. So that is also somewhat similar. We are going to do, not to that much depth. So when we are doing implementation Ariba, we are going to connect with here it is called site enablement or site readiness. So site is anyway it's being prepared by SAP shared services. What you need to do is, so what values need to be selected, master data, that activities has to be done by Ariba consultant. So the building is, documents are already available, like sourcing project, sourcing request, contract, requisition. These are all very standard. So we are not going to change anything on that. What we are going to do the customization is, like for the your client is having multiple plan. So that option we are going to fill in the field plan what needs to be selected. So only those things only we are going to change.
Okay, thank you. But
Yes,
it is running on cloud. I think it like in
that's
the
correct.
server. That, yeah.
Yeah. Cloud, and it is also called SaaS platform. That is software as a solution. So SAP is going to maintain all the build, code, the security, patches, everything is taken care by SAP. You don't need to worry. The client need not worry about that. It maintains the security as well as futures releases until via monthly releases or quarterly releases. And that is free of cost. So you just need to pay only for the subscription, what you are taking, whether it is a sourcing module, contract module, or all the modules.
So how is master data linked in Ariba,
Yeah.
and how like what are the capabilities of supply chain collaboration? Can you explain in brief?
Yeah. So coming to the master data, two things. Suppose if your master data is very frequently changing or updating, so what is your source of system? Do you want to have Ariba as your master data maintenance or your backend system? So for example, you want have S4HANA or ECC or an Oracle system. It could be any of your ERP system. Some master data is going to be changed frequently. So what kind of a master data? Cost centers, approvers, and then internal orders, work orders, all those things will frequently change, where that information needs to be come to SAP Ariba, then you can have an integration. So there are multiple integrations options are available. Flat file based. So the file will be sent from your ERP system to Ariba, or a real-time web services or CAG. So if you're having direct connectivity, immediately as soon as a cost center is created in backend system, that will get updated in Ariba also. Suppose you can have an independent. So I'm not using any ERP system. I'm only using Ariba to make the purchase orders for indirect purchases. Then that master data can be maintained in Ariba via import and export, import operation that we're going to cover under manage administration. You're going to import the master data. Clear?
Okay, sir, but what about the supply chain collaboration? Is it a new model within this, or?
The supply chain collaboration is again a different concept or different, totally different from Ariba. Your ERP system is directly talked to the supplier over SAP's business network. So you're not using Ariba, but you want to connect with your supplier, then you go ahead with supply chain collaboration. So what will happen there is you can also configure purchase order routings and additional configurations are available. In that scenario, you're going to use supply chain collaboration. Or if you want to use Ariba for your order processing, creation of a requisition or using of a catalog, then the supply chain collaboration will route through your ERP will create a requisition and it will come to the Ariba. Ariba, it will validate the requisition and Ariba will place the purchase order. Either you have to go with Ariba, then it is called Ariba Spend Management or SAP, whatever we are discussing now. Or if you don't want to use Ariba at all, but still you want to create the purchase requisition, sourcing activities, contract management in your ERP system, but you want to talk to the supplier just over business network, then that's called supply chain collaboration.
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
Hi, Naman here. What is the duration of the class? And how long it will take? For how many months?
It will go for 30 hours minimum. So average 30 to 35 hours we will be covering it. It varies from interactions between the student. So if you're asking more and more interactive questions, so the session can go up to 35, even up to 40 also we are allowed, not a problem. But generally, if there is no questions or something, it will go by around 30 hours session.
All right.
So even very new to the people or who are coming as a fresher, if you do not have any procurement knowledge, you can feel free to ask. Every day we are going to have the session. The recordings will be provided. Next day before we start the session, we generally clear whatever the doubts or whatever the issues which user is facing in practicing. That is cleared first, and then we'll be continuing our session.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, Jai Shri here. Sorry, actually I joined late. May I know when will be the batch get started?
I think it is kept in the chart also. Batch will be starting on May 17th. May 16th onwards we are starting.
No, sir, we are starting from the 16th May.
16th May, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I share the schedule. It's on Monday, Tuesday, except Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So it will be for 4 days a week. 4 days a week.
Okay, thank you.
So SAP Ariba is a demanding solution. So many people or clients are migrating from their existing landscapes to cloud-based environment. So you'll be having a lot of opportunities in this ground. So it's best time to migrate from your.
And may I know the fee structure also?
That you can connect with support and they will be helping you.
Okay.
We have shared a link in the chat. You can just click on that link and you can check the fees also.
So the link which has been provided, with that link, you would be able to check the curriculum. There would be some preview video also, and the prices is also there. There can be a little bit different price from the country you're logging in, based on the taxation in the countries, the price can be little different. That's why we recommend you go into the link and check the price on your own. If you don't have any other questions, I think we can end the session, and we look forward to you into the live session when it is starting on 16th of May, 7 a.m. India Standard Time. We look forward your presence in the sessions. Just to let you know, Ariba is very on-demanding skill. If you are into the supply chain business, if you are into the sourcing business, you want to convert your profile as a consultant, Ariba is a very good batch in your curriculum which need to be added. Okay, so it's ongoing, and a lot of SAP customers who are onto the ECC, who are onto the S/4HANA, they have started adopting to Ariba for their advanced sourcing solutions. So the market demand would be keep on increasing for Ariba consultants. If you don't have any other question, Sree, if there is anything else from your side, or shall we end the session?
No, we can end the session, Parminder. Thank you.
I have one question here. As I'm a SD consultant, and I have actually already enrolled for the Ariba session. So how it will basically help my to pursue my career, as I have experience in as a sales and distribution module.
Okay, so you have selected Ariba, right? There might be some reason to select Ariba.
Yeah, because of this market value and usually the market here. It's I have seen that it's booming up right now.
Mm-hmm. So do you see that in your company there's Ariba projects going on?
Not currently right now, but they are pursuing it later on.
They are pursuing. So based on that, you have selected. So that's the right decision. I also tell that once you have experience in one module, the second module, when you are selecting, you should look forward that where basically you would get chance to work also. That should be the criteria. And in your case, that there are Ariba projects coming it up, where basically you might get chance to work on Ariba. So that's right way and method, and you can go ahead with Ariba. What I would suggest you, after finishing Ariba, also do SAP S/4HANA sourcing and procurement, or SAP MM. Then your profile would be very strong. SDMM give you the core logistics, and Ariba giving you the enhanced sourcing skills.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I think Parminder, I will be logging out.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining. We are ending this session. If the recording would be shared maybe in a day or two with this, and we look forward your presence on 16th May with the session number 1. Thank you everyone. Bye-bye for now.